So in this lecture, I'm gonna give you a revision of previous lectures because I found you are not clear with the concepts. So I think I should give you the revision. So I will try my best to cover all the previous lectures. So this lecture is all about the revision, but I want you to watch this lecture completely because this is very important. Okay, so let's start it. First of all, we have learned what the variables are. So let's start with the variables. When we have some data, let's say we have some data, so we have to store it in a place so we can access it when we need it. So for data, we can create different variables. So our data is stored uh, in variable. So here are different kind of variable. Let me just show you. So first of all, let's say if I want to store data of a person, let's say person has a name, so I can create a variable as name. I have already told you the variable name should be relatable to the data we are storing it. Let's suppose I want to store different fruit, so I can create a variable as fruit and I can assign any value, that is, let's say apple. So everyone can be understand there must be some fruit in this variable. So we create variables, store different data types in Python. Let's say if I want to print anything on my string, let's say hello, we are going we are going to play a game. Let's see, and I just run it. So here's the output of the print statement. Hello, we are going to play a game. Let's say I want to print anything else, gas number, and also I want to add something else. Let's see, let me just take it here. But what happened if I want to print it in different places? I want to print it again and again, so it could be very difficult. So what can I do? I can store it in a variable. So this is all the string under quotation mark. Let's say I can write let's say sentence. So sentence is a variable and there is a sentence. So whenever I need to print this sentence, the whole sentence, simply I can call the variable name, that is sentence. I can print it one time and I can print it many times. Let's say I have called the sentence 3 times and let's run it. So as you can see, the sentence is printed 3 times because I have printed the sentence 3 times. So this is how can we use the variables. We can store different data types in variables. So let's discuss the data types. So we have different data types in Python. Let's take an example. Let's say I'm creating a data for a person. So person must as his name. So his name could be anything like John. And let's say I want to print a salary. He must be doing any job, so he must have some salary. Let's say 50,000. And he has some age. Age could be, let's say, 45. So these are the different data types. The first one is belongs to string, the second one is integer, and the third one is also integer. And also I can create, let's say, mm, let's say I can define the job title as software engineer, and also I can create different variable as let's say I can write extra hours. So I just want to make it as true or false. Either he is enrolled in extra hours or not. So simply I can use boolean data type, that is true or false. Let's say I write here as true. True means he gives some extra hours, but we are not going to discuss how many hours he gives. So this is how can we check. And then also for float, I can use let's say bonus. uh, let's say his bonus is 10,000.5. Now I want to check all the data types here. Simply what can I do? I can write print and then type, and which data type I want to check. Let's say I want to check the data type of the variable, that is name. So simply I can write the variable name as name. Now I want to check the data type of salary. So simply I can write print, then open brackets, then type, and again open brackets, and for salary. And similarly I want to check the type for age. Because I want to show the output. Definitely when we want to show some output, so we have to use print statement. For job also, and print type for extra hours, and also print type for bonus. Now let's run it. So here you can see the first one belongs to integer. Why it belongs to integer? Because this is under quotation mark. You just need to remember anything under quotation mark is supposed to be a string. So the second one is integer. and the third one is also integer, and the fourth is also a string, and the fifth is true or false, so this is supposed to be a boolean, so bool for boolean, and the last one is float. Okay, so now I just want to show you. Let's say I am creating a variable as word. If I assign a value, any, let's say integer value, and I want to print type word, I also want to print the word. So as you can see, 234 is an integer and its class belongs to integer. What if I put it under quotation mark and I run it? So 234 by visual it seems like it is an integer, but this is under quotation, so it is supposed to be a string. If I put a decimal point here and I run it again, so as you can see, this is now still an integer. Let's suppose if I write true, we know that true or false belong to boolean data type, but this true is under quotation marks, so if I run it, so still this is a string. Why this is a string? Because this is under quotation, so everything under quotation is supposed to be a string. So this is all we have discussed about how can we create different variables and how many data types do we have, and what are the difference between different data types. Now I want to show you how can we print different variables in single print statement. Let's say here is a name. Before this I wanted to show you something. Let's say a print. Okay, now I am creating a variable as name. Either I can take input or assign any value, but just now I am creating I'm giving the value. Name is John and his age is 30, and his, that's the salary. I can say 45,000. I can assign any other values that could be. We can take the previous example. Let's say extra hours. So for extra hours, we can take true or false. So I'm taking here as false. And for bonus, let's say his bonus is it could be, let's say, 1000.5. Now all I wanted to show you, I have used different data types in a single example. Here I want to print all these data. Let's say for print, obviously I need to use print, then open brackets. I want to print all these variables, so how can I do so? I can call them like name, because in a variable there could be any value. Now there is a name as John, but John is not a permanent or a mandatory name. It could be any name, any value. So we don't need to call the real name, that is John. We can call the variable as name, because variable can hold any value. That's why I have called the variable name as name. Then age, then salary, salary, and then extra hours, extra hours, and then bonus. So now let's run it. So here is the output of all the values. John 30, 45,000 false true. So this is how can we get the output. But for a third party, let's say if someone else check this output, so this is very difficult to understand. How could he understand what is John, what what does 30 mean, what does 45,000 mean, what is false, and what is 1000.5. So we know what is 1000.5. This is a bonus. But how can how could a other person can understand it? So we can write some string in our output. So how can we do so? We can write any sentence or any prompt in our print statement. For this we can use print format. F stand for format, then open brackets. Now how can I do so? Let's say I want to write the name of person is. So what is the name of person? Because we are creating the code, so we know the name of the person is John, and because we assign the value, so that's why we know the person of name is John. But let's say we don't know the person of name, so we don't need to call the real name. We need to call the variable in which we have assigned the name of the person. So here I can call the variable in curly brackets as name, and now I need to call his salary. So instead of writing his or her or the so what can I do? So I can call his name, and his name is stored in a variable as name. So here I can call his name by using variable as name. So, so we can write anything, whatever we want. Okay, so here I am. So I can write anything else. Let's say the name of person is name, and John is this year old. I can write anything else, and let's say name receives his salary. Salary, and then what we have, let's say, and name as name has the bonus. I can call the bonus and write anything. Let's say bonus. Now run it. So the name of person is John, and John is a 30-year-old, and John receives 45,000 salary, and John has a 1,000.5 bonus. So this is how can we write anything with the variables. So this uh, this task is called as string format. We can format the string with variables. This is the part of a string, and also this and also this. In between, how can we call the variables? By using curly brackets, and in curly brackets we can call the variables name, as I have shown. So this is how can we use a print statement for using different variables and string. So this is how can we create variables and how can we use different data types. Now I want to show you how can we take input. Let's say I want to take input as. So now because I want to take input, simply what can I do? I can write input, then open brackets. Here I can write enter your name. Okay, so this is the variable as name I have created. Now if I want to create another variable like age, let's just make it as input, then we will discuss this later. How can we change the data type? Enter your age. Enter your age. Okay, so let's just print anything. Okay, just run it. So it's asking for enter your name. Let's say John. Your age is 34. Okay, so hello John, your age is 34. So this is all we have done. But if you observe, okay, before going to discard, I just want to check the data types. Let's say I want to print, then type name, then print, then type age. Okay, so now let's run it. It's asking me for the name and the age could be anything. So the name is John and the class is string, so this is correct, but the age is also a string. So that's mean we need to define, when we are taking input, we need to define what kind of data we want to take input. So by default, if we don't define any data type, so the input is supposed to be a string. If we want to define any other data type, so in the beginning we can define its data type as, let's say I want integer. So uh, here I can define the variable as integer. So if now I give the value, so here now the 34 is supposed to be an integer. Okay, so this is how can we do so. Alright, so let's suppose if I create a variable as number 1 and I want to take the input from the user, let's say I put it as input, then I can say enter a number, then again number 2, enter another number, and let's say I want to make them sum. So what can I do? Simply I can number 1 plus number 2, then you can write print the sum of number 1 and number 2 is sum. Okay, now let's run it. So it's asking me for enter a number, let's say 7, and enter a number, another number, let's say 9. So the sum of 7 and 9 is 79. So obviously this is wrong. Why this is wrong? Because we did not define the data type. Because 7 and 9 are both integer, so we need to define the data type here. So it just concatenate both the numbers. We have already discussed what concatenate means. So concatenation means it combines the two or many values together. As you can see, 7 and 9 by combining together is 79. But we don't want the concatenation, we want the sum of both. So that's mean we need to define the data type here as integer. So integer is going to be a sum and string is going to be concatenate. So here is integer, then open brackets, then close the brackets. There is a mistake. Now it's gonna work. So now it's asking for a number, let's say 9, another number, let's say 6. So here the correct answer, the sum of 9 and 6 is 15. Sorry. So this is how can we use integer data types. Let's run it again. If someone puts a float number, so it gets an error, so it asking as you can see value error, so invalid for integer. So 4.5 is not valid for the integer. So how can we solve this problem? We have to change the data type here. So here we can change the data type for both numbers, because both numbers could be a float. So we have already discussed float data type works for both, for integer and float also. Let's say someone puts 3.0, so 3.0 equals to 3 because 0 has no value after the decimal point. So if 4.5, so as you can see the answer is 7.5. Let's run it again. If I enter a single value 4 and 5.6, so here as you can see the 4 is supposed to be as 4.0 because 0 impacts nothing after decimal point. So because we don't know, let's suppose you create a code for calculating the sum of two numbers and you don't know what type of number user gonna input. It could be an integer or a float. So for best choice we can use a float data type because float data type covers also the integer values. So this is how can we solve this problem. Now we have discussed all the data types. So now I wanted to show something else. How can we change different data types? Let's say here the number is 23 and I want to make it as float. So what can I do? I can create number 2 and I want to assign the 23 in number 2 but by making it float. So simply I can open brackets and I can call the number 1. This is how can I do so. So now let's print number 1 and also the type of number 1. Okay. So now also print number 2 also the type of number 3. Sorry, number 2. Okay, now let's run it. So the first number is 23 and it belongs to integer. Then in variable number 2 I convert the number 1 in float and then print it. So as you can see this is now 23.0 and its type is float. Okay, clear this screen. Now also we can change it from a string, let's say any number, and now run it. So as you can see 34 and it belongs to a string because this is under quotation, and I can change it into float. Also let's say this is a string, I can change it into integer. By giving the data type name we can change the values. So now let's run it. So the 34, this belongs to string, and the 34, this belongs to integer. So this is how can we change the data types. So I think I am covered all the data types here. One thing I want to show you, let's say I can create a variable as sentence, and I want to assign a sentence as hello, we are learning Python. So I want to show you, let's say if I print, simply first of all I can print this sentence albino. So print sentence, let's say 4. Let's see what happened. So it get me O. So this is string indexing. We have deeply discussed this topic, what is string indexing. As I explained you, when we have different students in a classroom, everyone has the unique roll number. Similarly, in a string, every letter has unique index number, but it starts from 0. So the first one index has 0, and second one has 1, and third one has 2, and fourth for 3, and the fifth one is 4, so and so on. So as you can see, I call the index value 4 from the sentence. Now read it again. I call the index value 4 from sentence. What is sentence? Sentence is a variable and there is a value for sentence. So what 4 belongs to? We can count it. It start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So for index number 4, we as we can see, we get the output as O. I can assign different values. Let's say I want to print uh, I want to print from print O, and then I want to stop it as index number 8. So, so this one is 4, and then white space also holds a single index. So this is 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So here is the 8, and as we know, the last one doesn't count. Okay, so if I do not assign the final value and I run it, so it's gonna print to the end of the string. Let's say if I assign its final value, let's say 12, and I don't assign the initial value, but it's gonna start with the initial of the string and gonna end with the end of the string. Let's say if I assigned nothing, so it's gonna print all the values. Also we have discussed I can assign the number of steps. By default it prints one by one letters, like index 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. But if I assign the number of steps as 2, so as you can see, it prints index number 0, then skip 1, then it prints in the index number 2, then skip 3, then print 4, then skip the space, then it prints W. So this is how can we change the number of steps. Also I can assign minus value. So if I assign minus value, because minus starts from the end, so if I run it, so as you can see, the n in the last of the string now is the first letter of the string, then O and H and T. So the string is reversed, the sentence is reversed now. So this is how can we reverse a string by using string indexing, or this is called string slicing. When we are using these ratio sign or colon sign, this is called string slicing. This is how can we solve the if we want to make our string reverse. Then we have some operators, arithmetic operators, logical operators, assignment operators. Let's say for arithmetic operators we know the plus and minus for multiplication and division. So this is very simple, we can perform anything. Also we have discussed and, or, and not. So let's say there is a number 1 and this value is 45, and number 2, this value is anything, let's say 67.8. I'm taking as integer, and I can print, let's say I want the sum of number 1 and number 2 is, now I can add them both, plus num2. Also I want to print the difference, so I can write the difference of number 1 and number 2 is number 1 minus number 2. So these are the arithmetic operators that can be used in Python. Also I can use multiplication and for division. Let's say run it. So here the sum of 45 and the 67.8 is 112.8, and the difference is minus 22, and the multiplied by 67.8 equals 45 multiplied by 67, it equals to 3051.0. This is how can we perform different mathematical, or you can say the arithmetical operators in Python. Also we have some assignments operator. So let me just give you the quick revision of assignment. So let's say if here let's say number 1, here I assign the value, but if I apply 2 equals, so that's mean I am comparing the value. So also the comparing value, I have greater, I have lesser, I have equal or greater, and also equal or less. So all these are the comparisons. Also we have discussed the AND operator and NOT operator, and AND operator, NOT operator, OR operator. So also we have left if else statement. For revision we have all covered if else statement and logical operators, but for today we can pause this lecture here, and if you get any problem or any hesitation for solving any problem, so feel free to ask me in the next lecture. So here I'm gonna stop the recording. So inshallah we will meet in our next lecture. So Allah Hafiz.